I had the pleasure of going into Mrs. King's honors math class and picked up a number of things. There's a lot of similarities between math and physical science, a lot of calculation-based things. She was focusing on graphing that day, which was both an inspiration to me as well as an interesting way to see mathematical properties presented in a different manner. And the thing that I took away right away was I'm always looking for hooks, how to get the students out of their desks, 86 minutes long class periods. How do we get them up without causing a disruption in the flow of class? And she was really masterful at the way she had her students trained to go up and answer problems projected on the board as part of the class process. And so seeing a different technique for doing that was really valuable and insightful for me.
I had the opportunity to observe Fallon Quillis. She teaches English for 12th grade. And I was able to pick her because we both teach small group instruction, and it was really a great experience for me to observe her in action with her students.
So I did my learning walk this time with Melissa Mantia. She teaches English, mostly sophomore levels. That was the class I watched her with. And I was particularly excited to see a sophomore level class because I have been teaching US 1 for about 3 years now. So we had a lot of crossover students, and it was an interesting experience to see the personalities of students that I have in my class, how they are in another room with another teacher, and seeing how the expectations of that teacher, expectations of me were expressed in what was done throughout the block. And I think that overall I felt a little bit more confident in my own teaching, seeing another teacher do similar activities, experiencing the same classroom environment that I'm trying to create in her room, and then seeing just the students' responses to her activities and comparing them to their activities that they do in my class.
I got to visit with Mrs. Grovoskaya in the art department, and she teaches all levels of art, so from very basic level 1s to advanced art students. I visited her during a period where she actually didn't have students, which was almost beneficial. She got to show me everything that the students were doing at all levels. So I saw all sample work from throughout the year, from every level of her art students, from level 1 all the way up to the advanced portraits and things of that nature. It was amazing. It was amazing, actually. We went through how she kind of adapts her curriculum based on the students that she has and their ability, which is kind of cool. She has the ability to kind of change things up depending upon what she finds the strengths are of her students at all the different levels. So it was fascinating to watch how she could pull different projects and show different things that this year students were able to do that maybe her students last year would not have been able to accomplish. So it was really, really interesting. And we got into some pretty amazing conversation about how I might be able to incorporate some of what she does into my curriculum and vice versa. So that was really cool too.
So I observed Miss Mackey's peer class. They were doing an activity in the gym, a team-based activity. So it was a non-traditional classroom. And I think that for me, it was wonderful to see students in that capacity. Obviously, you can't always do team building activities in a traditional classroom. So it was nice to see Miss Mackey's approach to an activity like that, where she really just stepped back and let them figure it out on their own. So it was a lot of problem solving and team building that was student-centered, which was interesting to observe.
I observed Joseph D'Amico from the history department. He was doing a review, as I recall, of some U.S. history. I have to think back, it's been a couple weeks. But the biggest thing I took away from seeing Mr. D'Amico was just his general demeanor, how well he conducts a class. He's so personable, and the kids really respond to him. They really react well off him. He has great command of the classroom without having to do too much, right? He's very casual with the kids, and there's just a great flow. I was really impressed by just the way he handles things and how easy everything seemed to flow.
I did my learning walk with Mr. Kinsey, Mike Kinsey's chemistry class. I thought it was a great experience. Mr. Kinsey has, great control in his room. I also thought one of the best parts about the lesson itself was great. It was like bases and acids. But the the thing I was really impressed with in the classroom was he made a few jokes, but the jokes were kind of like chemistry insider jokes. Jokes that if you don't know the chemistry jargon, if you didn't know the terms he was talking about, they're going to go right over your head. They're not funny. But it was almost made being like knowing these terms and knowing the insider chemistry stuff. It made it kind of cool within that space, which I thought was great. That he took something which could be, looked at as just subject matter material, but made it kind of like a cool part of his class where the students all kind of laughed and, kind of joked back with him about these chemistry things. And that made chemistry kind of cool within that space. So I thought it was a great, great thing. I really enjoyed it. I thought he did a great job in the lesson.
So I had the opportunity to do my learning walk with Sue Nazath, and I was excited about that because I have a degree in STEM and engineering, and I'm certified to teach those courses, but I teach special ed here. So I got to observe her introduction to architecture class, and it was a great opportunity because I got to see the students in an elective setting. I got to see them working on some engineering and design skills. So it was a great opportunity to get that.
So I had the privilege and the pleasure of visiting Mr. Borriello's woodshop class. Basically, I was very interested in what he taught. I am very intrigued with all of the objects that come out of woodshop. What I really learned the most is Mr. Borriello always has to be on. And what I mean by that is, yes, I teach lessons, I teach math, and occasionally I can hand my children a worksheet. I can maybe answer an email as they're working on a problem or two. But he can never really look down. He has a lot of sharp objects in that room, and he must always be attentive to his class, and he always is. It was such a pleasure visiting him. It really was.
I think it's a great opportunity for us to see what our colleagues do. I mean, at a school this large, there's a lot of times some of us as staff members just walk by each other in the hallway, say good morning. So I think it's really beneficial to see the in and outs of what some of our colleagues do in their classroom and really make that connection.
So I love the learning walks. I think it's such an amazing opportunity to meet teachers that I probably walk past every day and don't actually know their first or last name. It's a huge school. There's so many students, but there's also so many teachers here. So the cross-curricular ideas that you could come up with the learning walks, the meeting a new person, making a new friend, building that real family connection that I think Dr. Sasso, the administration, and the whole community, our whole town really builds on is just nice. There's, 42 square miles of Old Bridge. So there's a lot of people, there's a lot of faces. Making an actual genuine connection with some of those faces that you don't always get to see or interact with is just really interesting. And like I said, I feel like I've never had a bad experience through a learning walk. It's always been making a new friend, meeting a new face, and having a new colleague that I could collaborate with.
I think it's an amazing opportunity. We're a big faculty. We have a lot of classes here, and it's hard to get in to see our colleagues do what they do best. It's hard to be able to get a chance to interact with them that way. And to, you may think you know what your colleague teaches, but until you actually see it in action, sometimes you really don't understand. And I love the opportunity to be able to have a set time where I can go and sit with a colleague and watch them work and watch their students interact with them and learn myself what it is that they're teaching and how it benefits. We share students. So, I see a lot of the same kids that they do come through my classroom, and it's nice to see a different perspective, maybe the talent that I didn't know my students had that I can see come out in their classroom that I don't get to see because I teach something so totally different. So it's wonderful. It's a wonderful program. I loved it.
So I think we all kind of stay in our little compartments, in our subject areas, in our wings. And I think it was nice to kind of get out and see what another classroom experience is like that is so different from your own. And I definitely think that I can take some of what I saw and apply it to my lessons in a more traditional setting.
The learning walks, I think they benefit the Old Bridge community because the school is so big and there's so many staff here. There's people here that you may not run into on a daily basis that you may not get to have those conversations with. And I think it's fantastic to be able to have those little moments to talk about what goes on here on a daily basis, to get those different perspectives from someone you may not see in your department or may not see, on a daily basis, and have those kind of compare notes moments on what do you think about this and what works in your department versus what works in my department. And you get those entirely different perspectives. And I just, I know from over time, even speaking about students, how they are in my class might be vastly different and how they are in someone else's class. And, you get those different perspectives, and you get better as a teacher by doing it.
I think the Learning Walks program in general is great for a couple reasons. One, you get to meet people maybe you didn't know, but even if you did know them beyond that, we all go about our day generally in our own classroom with our own students. We don't get to see what other people do and what works and things like that. This is a great way, kind of a catchphrase in the learning education community is best practices people talk about and sharing them and so on. This is in a very real sense sharing them. You get to go in, I got to go in and see a class, see what that teacher did and say, oh, you know what, I really like that. I think that was great. Maybe I can use that in my class. And I think at a school like ours where you have so many teachers with so many different styles and personalities, to be able to go in and pick up on little things that you may be able to use in your own class helps everyone.
I think for the Learning Walk program, one thing I was really surprised to see was the differentiation that she uses in her curriculum design. So in the introduction classes, she gave a template to her students to basically recreate her class design using the CAD software. And then her level 2s, it's more of an open-ended format for project-based learning. So I was interested to see the differentiation that she uses in her elective, which is something I use for special ed. So it was a great chance.
We teach and we stay in these rooms, and sometimes we don't know what's going on in other people's rooms. And I just think it takes away that whole concept of the grass is always greener. Oh, this person has it so easy. They teach this. They don't know how hard it is. Everybody has it hard. Everybody works hard, and we need to know what everyone else is doing. And they share different strategies that we can learn from. And it was just really an experience that I would like to see continue to happen. I hope that I get to visit other classrooms next year.